I'm inspiring them with skills that they will actually have, that they can use in the workplace. And if you look after your people, they'll look after your customers. Learning that leadership doesn't come from your job title, it comes from how you behave. I'm like, you don't need AI and automation. Like, what you need is to invest in your people. If you haven't got a standard, you can't improve.
So today's going to be an absolute masterclass in how to start off in Lean. We're here with Matt. Matt started off life as a postman, and he has become one of the world's leading experts on Lean. He works for companies like Amazon. He totally radically did a Lean overhaul inside his department in the post office. But I'd love to start off, Matt, with like being a postman on the street. You're doing the same round every single day. How did you start to implement Lean, even though you didn't know it was Lean at the time? How did you start to implement that into your day-to-day life?
It was a natural process. So I used to, you go in the morning, you would get all your letters, you'd sort them into the right order, you put them in your bag and you'd go out on delivery. But you'd have to walk up and down every single pathway. And I started thinking, well, actually, if I could just like jump over that fence or scale that drain pipe and shimmy across, I could save myself 5 or 6 seconds. And you naturally, you were chasing the clock. You wanted to beat the time that you did the previous day. And then you started to get markers in your mind where you knew that you had to be at a certain part of the round by a certain time and you would chase that number. So I was doing it naturally without even knowing that I was doing it. It was a strange one.
Yeah, it is kind of human nature. It's like we want to optimize, particularly if you're doing something repetitively. Your brain, you can't help yourself. Like I used to work, like I was saying to you, for Deliveroo, so like delivering stuff around the city. And it's crazy how after a period of time, you're like, you know what, I could nip off that curb and I could do this and I could go down that road and did it. It's like you can't help it. It's just natural.
Nobody, or very few people, go into work deliberately to do something slow or to do it badly. Very few people. Everyone wants to go in and do well at what they do. It's how we set up the infrastructure for them to do well, I think, is what's missing a lot of the time. And what I found with being a postie is there wasn't much infrastructure around what we did. It was very Janet and John. You got the letters, you go out, you deliver them to your customer. So there was a lot of opportunity in there to be innovative and find ways of doing it.
There was a lot of total ownership in that job. Kind of just naturally baked into the way it was set up. Yeah, you do. You're kind of self-employed in your own little bubble. You've got your own 500 customers or whatever it would be. Yeah, and it's you look after your own customers.
And was it a Japanese mentor that introduced you first of all?
It was,
at the post office.
So at the post office, Royal Mail were going to go on the stock market. And at the same time, they wanted to make the company more modern and more appealing. Yeah. So they brought in this Japanese professor, Professor Yamashima. And he came over he'd done loads of work in Toyota and in Fiat and companies like that. And he brought in it was world-class manufacturing, but we called it world-class mail. Really clever. So it's still WCM.
Nice.
And it was based on 10 pillars, safety, quality, cost, all your standard pillars. And I was the workplace organisation pillar lead. And that was amazing because that allowed me to look at how we did everything in the areas that we were doing them and just completely think outside the box, change the way we've done it since Henry VIII introduced sorting the mail in that way, we could now change it. It was a really exciting time. It was brilliant. And he just inspired me and I just got bitten by the bug.
And that was your moment where it kind of...
Yeah, I'd gone from at school, academically terrible, couldn't learn, struggled with learning, became the joker because the learning, I couldn't absorb the information. And for the first time in my life, I had this education being put in front of me that I wanted to, everyone else would go on the break and I'd sit there with him. I wanted to know more. I wanted to read another book. I wanted to know what this meant and that meant. I was pulling that learning and it took over my life. Like I became obsessed. I'd go home to my wife and say, we're moving the kitchen around. This is now going, the cups are going there and the plates are going there. And that passion, I was able to then to put onto other people and not purposely, it just happened. And it grew and grew and grew and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah. Why do you think the school system felt like a push for you, whereas this Lean stuff was a pull?
At the time, I thought I was stupid. I thought I was not like, you got sets. We used to have 4 sets. Set 1 was the clever people. Set 4 was the me people. Right? Set 4 was me, the jokers. People. Yeah, we'd take the middle out the biros and shoot up bits of paper at people.
Innovative.
But my teachers told me that I would never achieve anything, and I had a downer on me from that day. And I was bullied, and I was probably the original in-betweener. I didn't quite fit in with the cool kids. I wasn't quite a geeky kid. I was in the middle, right? And I just felt like I couldn't learn. And then when I look back on it now, I now realise, and it's so clear to me, that it wasn't the subjects or me that was failing. It was the teachers were failing because they weren't engaging me and they weren't making the subjects fun and engaging. So when I help my children now with their learning, they might be learning history, the Egyptians, or they might be learning about Henry VIII. We do it in a fun way because I can make it fun for them and they retain the information.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned very quickly, is that it's about making it engaging.
And I can see how you've brought that into the lean world as well, because your content is very engaging, your podcast, your videos.
Yeah.
You've, and it's, in a way, we're really similar because you've made lean exciting, you've made lean engaging, and you've made it fun.
What was it like to then come in-house and behind the scenes where there probably was a lot more structure and rigidity and this is how we do things? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, that was hard. And the hardest part of that was going from being one of the lads, sort of Jack the lad postman, knew all the shortcuts. I was the person down the cafe at 8:30 in the morning when I should have been doing sorting, to suddenly become a leader. I naively thought that I'd walk in with my cheap shirt on the Monday and everyone would treat me differently because I was a leader. And that was a real baptism of fire, learning that leadership doesn't come from your job title, it comes from how you behave. And I'd say that was a 15-year journey for me.
Like what sticks with you today?
So I thought that I was brought up in an environment where I was led to believe that if the boss tells you to do something, you do it. So, we were doing WCM. So we had a group of people that were in a room, released from their job, who were doing WCM, and we'd go out there and tell the people, this is how you need to change your work area. And I was getting really frustrated that they weren't doing what I was telling them to do.
Why won't no one just do what they're told?
I was like, look, the data says this is the right thing to do. I'm telling you it's the right thing to do. I'm the boss. Do what I'm telling you to do. And some of these people were like old enough to be my parents. And then there's me sitting in my shiny suit saying, do it this way. It's the way to do it. But I thought that's how you did it, because that's what I'd seen.
Right.
I'd seen the boss telling people how to do it. And I think when you really get into the essence of lean, you learn that it's about people and about respect for people. And it wasn't until I learned that I'd say my career really took off. It was like a light in the touch paper that moment. It was like, wow, this is the difference.
So I think this is actually, we've accidentally arrived at like the white hot center of this episode, because so many of the questions that we get is, no one on my team will listen to me and I'm trying to implement lean and they don't do this and they don't do that. And how do I get them to obey? How do I get them to conform? It's basically like, how can I control my people? And as you just said, that's not how you do it.
No.
So Matt Sims, how do you do it?
Well, you don't want to be a dictator. That's the key. I think what helped me over the period of time was that I managed to build that credibility because I'd done the job. So because I'd been a postman and I'd done the postman's work, I understood what it was like from that perspective. But then equally, I understood what it was like from a management perspective, who's getting the middle managers. You think they're getting squeezed from above, they're getting squeezed from above and from below. So it's hard. And I think that once you get that credibility and people understand that you're not doing it for a quick buck, you're doing it for the right reasons, that's where it really changed.
Were you going to schools to teach about lean?
Yeah.
You can't just come down from like an authoritarian. You kind of got to get buy-in, you got to get engagement.
When I go in, I want them to pull the learning from me. Because if I'm going in there and pushing it on them, this isn't, they have to be there because they're at school, but I don't want them sitting there dejected, this is rubbish and I can't be bothered with this. I want them, that spark coming from them. Because if I'd have had that at their age, I think my career would have been very different to what it was.
So what age group are you teaching lean to at schools?
8 to 16 is the range that I've been doing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of changed the way I deliver it dependent on the age group.
Yeah. So of all the work that you do, I think that's the most admirable. You've worked with Amazon, you've worked with the post office, but the fact that you go into schools and you're getting lean in at the grassroots, I think that's what we should be doing.
Japanese way, man.
It is, yeah.
But you think you get them young, you inspire them, because it's the leadership stuff as well. They're learning to, the Scouts is great because they use it towards their problem solving badge. So it's something they use constantly. But I'm inspiring them with skills that they will actually have, that they can use in the workplace.
Yeah.
And the British Quality Foundation are now going to accredit the online version. So they actually get a qualification
Yo,
in
very good.
lean and continuous improvement.
And
It's
is it
just
practical as well? It's like hands-on, is it?
yeah. It's all so in the online module. There's like videos of the like me making a cup of coffee, for example, and then I spill the coffee, and then I have to walk across the room to get the milk, and they have to hit the mouse where they see the wastes, and then it pops up.
hazard perception for waste.
Yeah, it's exactly what it's like. So if you're looking for a next experience, that ain't the thing. This is all about interaction.
Yeah.
And in the workshop, so I do lots of different ones, but one of the ones I do is they build this Lego buggy. And they build it over 5 rounds. And each round we introduce one of the 5 S's. So in the first round, they've got some really naff instructions, but they've got a tool station, and then they've got a list of instructions, and they have to reference the 2. So it'll say, put the 6YZ4B, and they've got to find the 6Y and find out what it is. It takes them 15 minutes to build this buggy, and they all get cross and they're all frustrated. By round 7, they build it in 7 seconds. And they get so competitive as well, because they're all in their own individual teams, and one team's Ford, one team's Toyota, one team, they name what car company they want to be. And they're really going at it, and they love it. And by the end of it, I go, right, what's the first S? And they shout it out, and I go, what does it mean? And they tell me what it means. And it's that moment that you're walking away from them, that you've actually left a lasting impression.
Very cool.
That's incredible.
What have you learned that business owners listening can apply to the cranky 56-year-old man who's worked in the factory since before they even showed up? How do you start to work with a department or a whole line of people like that? Because that's the reality for a lot of our listeners.
My tip would be, naturally we end up spending more time with the people that are less interested, because we're trying to coax them and convince them. Whereas we're much better off investing our time into the people that are interested, building a buzz around what we're doing, let everybody see how good it is. And the chances are those people that are a bit more resistant will see that and then start to ask questions. They'll have a little look and they come across.
Yeah.
What can a leader practically do? Like, what's a bit of a playbook? Or is it leave him alone and go focus on the true believers and he'll convert eventually? Yeah,
I wouldn't exclude them, because that can sometimes be the catalyst for them to just distance themselves. I'm not involved, nothing to do with me. I would include them, but I would definitely try and get some benefits out of what you're doing so they can see it. The other thing is, ask that person, what are your bugbears? You do this job every single day. What really gets on your nerves? What can we change? And then it might mean nothing to you as a leader. I mean, complete waste of your time. But to that person, it means a lot.
Right.
And they'll go home that day thinking, wow, do you know what? I had an idea. We changed it. It's so much easier for me now. And you get those small wins.
That shows that you care. And it might not even speed up the process or make the process more operationally efficient.
Yeah.
But actually, it's even better because you're doing the right thing at the end of the day.
It's hearts and minds. If you win hearts and minds, if you look, what's that saying? If you look after your people, they'll look after your customers. And often we focus on our customers, but really, as a leader, your customer is your people. But we always think, our customer is Mrs. Smith sitting at her house down the road. We don't think like that, and that's what it should be. It should be look after your people.
Yeah. And see a huge corporation like Amazon, what was buy-in like there? Is there buy-in at ground level?
Amazing.
Really?
Because it's the culture. From the day one, you're going into a culture that is all about innovation. It's all about customer-centric. There's leadership principles that you adhere to. Everyone knows the leadership principles. Everything you do is based on those leadership principles.
Yeah. And do Amazon actually call it lean, or do they call it something?
No, they call it the Amazon Customer Excellence System. So it's ACEs.
Right.
It's a great culture, and although you've got a team that own the standards and that own change, it's driven by the people. So you go into, I was telling Ryan earlier, you can go into any Amazon building in the world, you wouldn't know where you were. They all are the same. The standardization's amazing.
Yeah.
And all the ideas come up through the people, and they own them. And because they own them, because they've got that ownership, they've got that emotional investment into it, change since you get the odd thing it doesn't work, but most of the time it sustains.
And it's nice to hear that a large corporation can do it, because we've seen it at Toyota as well. Toyota UK, where people on the shop floor actually have say into their process improvements and changes, and it's brilliant to see that Amazon have that culture as
works. Well. But when you look at Toyota, if you look at it from above, it's like watching synchronized swimming. Like everybody's moving in unison. It's like, and everyone knows like just what it's amazing to see. And you don't need lots of people I speak to. If I go into a company and they say, we know we're failing, we really need to improve our efficiency, we need automation, we need AI. I'm like, you don't need AI and automation. Like what you need is to invest in your people. Only once you've exhausted your people, as in not working them hard, I don't mean exhaust them. I mean, as in exhausted the capability. Then you look for automation and AI. But then they go, well, AI is going to replace our jobs. But it's not. It's about the AI takes up the monotonous jobs that people don't want to do, allowing people to be innovative and focus on the creation stuff. That's what it's all about. Yeah. That's the exciting part.
It's really exciting for like a huge company like an Amazon, where I could be a delivery driver, I could be someone who finds the items in the warehouse. Yeah. And if I know that if I come up with an improvement, that I could be improving this process for like thousands of people around the world who are doing this job just like me.
And that's the big pull. That that's what you say, because it's true. Yeah. Like it's amazing. We launched standard work in Germany a few years ago. And I based it on what we were doing in the UK, and we built these
Amazon Germany.
Yeah,
right.
And it was just amazing. Like, and the stuff that we were launching had come from operators and people that were doing the job in sites in the deepest, darkest parts of the UK. Yeah. But that had become a standard because people get fixated on standards. And I had this joke with Tom Hughes. A standard is the best we know today. But lots of people think there's a standard. That's the standard. Like we cannot deviate from that standard, but that's how we do it forever. Yeah. Like, that is it now. It's in stone. But that's not. If I can come up with a better way of doing that in a controlled environment, then we replace that. We can replace it every day if we need to. But people get stuck on the fact that it has to be done that way.
It's just a basis for improvement.
Yeah, exactly. And if you haven't got I can't remember what the official saying is now, but if you haven't got a standard, you can't improve. Yeah. And it's so true. And it doesn't have to be written down. Like if you're in your organisation now and you haven't got standard work, but you want to improve, I would not waste your time creating standard work for everything that you're doing already. Like, it's just a complete waste of time. I would just pick your processes, pick your biggest loss area, engage with your people, and then create standard work as you go. Because so many times I've seen people creating standard work, and I'm like, why are you writing all that down? They go, we're going to change it tomorrow, but we need a standard to base it on. But that's not how people do it. Everyone does it different.
Yeah, it's like for us, it's like if we create like a standard work document of how to hoover the studio, instead of like, we've had mic problems the last 10 episodes. You know what I mean?
It's easier to do it for the Hoover. It's much easier. Yeah. But Tom talks about the SOP guy. I was the SOP guy at Royal Mail for years, and I was so sick of creating SOPs. No one ever read them other than me. And like, what's the point? Why are we bothering if no one's doing it? Yeah. Because we'd missed the key element, which is the people understanding why this is important, and they own it, not me. Mm-hmm. They own their process.
Yeah. Something I think that's really exciting about the lean community online and across the world. A lot of your team members, Ryan, like I'm thinking of Paddy and I'm thinking of several other people, they'll make improvements in their workstation. But then there'll be a video of that goes in a WhatsApp group or on YouTube, or there'll be a factory tour visit that will come and see that. And, Paddy's one improvement that he made for himself gets replicated around the world in lots of different factories and lots of different niches, kind of like that Amazon effect we were talking about. Yeah. And that's what I think is really exciting about the YouTube community and the online community for lean is we can all share this information and everyone can just steal it and benefit from it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like that posture of service actually makes every little improvement incredibly exciting.
But that's how Toyota started, wasn't it? Once they had got their Toyota production system, they invited all the other companies in to have a look. Yeah. And they didn't feel threatened by that because their attitude was, they will see the solution, but they don't know what problem we were trying to fix, which is very clever.
It's like a mad, complicated maths equation. It's like, if you can't see how it was worked out, it's like, well.
it might make your problem worse. Like, you don't know, do you? Yeah. But it's true. But I think so often we see competitors as like, we've got to close our ranks, mustn't talk to people. One of our team's going to a competitor, they can't talk about what we do. But I think if we all work together, we can move things forward so much quicker.
We share all of our information online.
Yeah.
It's all on YouTube. We're giving it all away for free. But what we get in return is, you know, a worldwide, global, almost a think tank, almost a crowd. You called it one time crowdsourcing ideas.
100%. You just now have 10,000 eyes on your factory, when before there would have been 100.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
We get comments and ideas all the time. Oh, you should do this or try this, or they send us a link to a new device or a new tool that we would never have thought of.
Yeah.
And it's those fresh eyes looking in, though, that if you didn't have fresh eyes, how often have you been writing a document and you sit there and you scrutinise this document and you go, right, I say to my wife, can you just check this document for me? I've been doing it for weeks, right? I know it's good. She looks at it and goes, loads of spelling mistakes. But you don't see them because you're just so used to staring at that document. Those fresh eyes are so important, really are.
Like, if you think about the next, let's just shorten the time horizon slightly, like 20 years. Like, what do you really want to get done that you feel like hasn't been done yet?
I want to get lean and continuous improvement into the curriculum.
Yeah.
So I find it really frustrating that as adults, we know that adults learn in different ways. You might be a practical learner, so you can do an apprenticeship. You can go off and do stuff with your hands. You might be academic, so you can do exams. But we still got this fascination with sticking kids in a room, staring at a whiteboard or a blackboard in my day, and then doing an exam at the end of it. And then we go, they're in set 4 because they don't do very well. They're troublemakers. But they just don't learn in that way. And then those kids that are in that class, they're all within 12 months of each other. So there's 12 months between the youngest and the oldest potentially, yet we're judging them on the same criteria, yet their brains are not developed as much. And then, then when you think about it, that you go through school from the age of 5 to, I think it's 18 now, with people who are all within 12 months of each other. As an adult, you don't walk into a pub and they go, how old are you? And you go, well, I'm 40. They go, well, the 40-year-olds sit there, the 30-year-olds are there, the 20-year-olds are there. You mix with people of different ages.
Yeah.
And what happens in that environment is you learn from the older people. They mentor you without you knowing it. The younger people, you pass your wisdom on to them without knowing you're doing it. And you get this ecosystem of learning and development going on. But in a school, we're missing that. We're missing it so badly. So with the stuff that I'm doing with the schools, like the lean stuff, and I do other ones as well where they get pieces of drain pipe and bamboo sticks and they have to get the marble from one end of the room to the other. But because they're in their own isolated little teams, they build it, then it doesn't match up, the heights don't work. So they learn about working together and coming together to achieve a goal. And there's another one where they get eggs and they have to drop the eggs from upstairs, but it has to land safely. So we use the DMAIC process to work through to problem solve, saving the egg. So they're learning, but without knowing they're learning. And my motto is learning shouldn't feel like learning. And I think within lean, there's maths in there, there's English in there, there's science in there, the scientific thinking element, creating that environment. So at school, you're taught pass, fail, right, wrong, correct, incorrect, true, false. It's black and white all the time. Do you remember the old red pen, the cross and the tick and the smiley face and the sad face that I used to see a lot? That is teaching our kids that you can't get things wrong. You can't experiment. You must do it a certain way. Then they're going into the workplace and we're going, oh, look, we're lean. We do a lean environment. We want you to try things and be innovative. And if it doesn't work, we learn from it. But that's not what they've been taught for the first 16 years of their life.
It's just been programmed the opposite way.
We need to create environments that are psychologically safe I found the kids that do my workshops, the innovation that comes out, right? So on one of the tasks, they've got a shadow board of all the Lego parts on. And by the 5th round, I say to them, right now, I want you to have a Kaizen event. They get a 5-minute Kaizen event in their group. And I want you to come up with ways to build that buggy quicker. And one of the 8-year-old groups, right, there's 4 of them in it, they'd drawn triangles around the wheels, they did circle around the engine parts, and there was a square around the wing parts. And I was like, what's that? She goes, well, I do the triangles, she's doing the squares, and she's going to do the circles. I was like, wow, unbelievable. And they've come up with that on their own. There's no breadcrumbs in there. They've picked that up on their own. So these kids have got in their minds some amazing, innovative ideas that when you give them an environment where they can express that without the fear of being told they've done it wrong or they're not as good as that person who happens to be 12 months older than them, they really shine. And I think that there's legs in getting continuous improvement and problem solving into schools as a curriculum item.
And for somebody listening to this from the education system, what's the first step for them doing that?
So the initial, so I've got the workshops that I go into the schools and do. They're normally 2 hours long,
Right?
and they're really good if you want people to learn about lean, but it not be a traditional school way. It's quite good. And I've had private schools, public schools, scout groups, loads of different environments with that, and it's always been engaged well. Then the other side of it is there's going to be an e-learning that will be module based. So there'll be like 20 modules in there, and the kids can go on, do it at their own pace.
Right.
It's all media heavy. So there's lots of videos, lots of gamification. There's crosswords in there. There's word searches. There's loads of little fun bits in there. And at the end of it, they've got a short test. So it's not your standard exam where it's really hard. It's a fun test. And then they get that accreditation, which it's the perfect lead up to going to do your yellow belt or your green belt or your black belt in Six Sigma if you want to progress with it. So I think really as a school, my first suggestion would be do the workshops because they're a great way to see how it's picked up. I've done workshops in a school where I've done it with the kids, and on the way out, the headmaster said, "Can you come back and do that workshop with my leadership team?"
Class.
I've had I send them, they get a certificate, like really nice certificate that says they've completed the course. I've had parents contact me and go, "You done a 5S workshop with my daughter last week. Can you come and do it at my work?"
Nice.
So you're inspiring more and more people from it, and it's opening their eyes up to this new. It's new to them, but it's been around for years, isn't it?
For sure, yeah. But that's the whole game is you're spreading the good news.
Yeah, I want to get that learning into schools. It's really important. So my current plan, my business plan with it, is to do it with as many schools as I can for 6 months, get some really good testimonials, and then I'll start talking to the councils and saying, "Do you know what? This is the evidence here. Let's do it. Let's get it out there and just try it." Like if they try it, they'll see it all day long.
For sure. What is give us your best sauce, so hold nothing back, in terms of like one practical thing that you would suggest that they do after listening to this?
I would say turn it off once it's finished. Listen to all of it first, right? Turn it off. Go downstairs and just watch and talk to your people. Just chat to them, ask them how they're getting on, open questions, open-ended questions where they can give you, not a yes or a no, a proper answer. Listen to what they're actually saying. Don't glaze over. Actively listen to what they're saying. There will be some real nuggets down there. And 99% of the problems that you've got on that shop floor, those people will have the answers already. You just need to find a way of getting that out of them. 100%.
Love it.
Amazing. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming on to the podcast today. And I think with your goal to inspire young kids to get into lean, I think no better platform than this platform. We're in loads and loads of countries with loads of listeners, and hopefully this is a step towards you achieving your goal. So thank you.
Thank you very much.